It's 1942 and times are pretty bad. The Germans are the lord and master over Europe, while most of the Western Soviet Union is now under complete occupation. The cataclysmic Battle of Stalingrad is underway. But, deep in the bunkers of the Urals, a secret team of elite Soviet scientists are working on a secret project. The project is completely mad, but it may just be mad enough to work. During the Russian Revolution and the plundering of the Tsarist palace, the living quarters of Grigory Rasputin were found and subsequently turned upside down. Here, a small black book with a red hand on it was found. The Bolshevik plunderers opened it up but couldn't make sense of it. So, the book was scheduled for a massive bourgeoisie book burning. But, just as the fire lit up, the book seemingly disappeared. No one was paying close enough attention to notice, but gone the book was. For 20 years, it was missing. Well, missing isn't really the right word. Nobody even knew to miss it. Where it was during this time, even I cannot tell you. But, one day, on the eve of the German invasion of the Soviet Union, it inexplicably appeared on Stalin's desk. Stalin had locked himself up in desperation, in immense pain, seeing army after army destroyed in the German onslaught. In this state, Stalin closed his eyes, and when he opened them, there it was, simply laying on his desk. Ever suspicious, Stalin checks his surroundings, but realizes that there was no opportunity for anyone to place it here. Carefully, Stalin opens up the book and reads, "In shadows you remain. The most desperate moment looms. Triumph is elusive. Solely within, I hold the map to navigate your victory." Stalin simply stared at the book for minutes, and then began skimming the pages. They were simply all empty. Stalin went back to the first page. It now read something entirely different. "Dread no more, for I align with your cause. Deny my presence, only havoc shall govern." Stalin remained in silence, simply staring. Ever the genius, Stalin now realized that this was no ordinary book. He had read a lot about Rasputin's alleged magic skills, but never believed in it. Sighing deeply, Stalin asks, "What can you offer me?" "Abundant in human strength, yet consider this simple proposition: eternal existence." Stalin again contemplated, until reaching a decision. "Show me how." This brings us back to our Ural bunker. It took a year, but a combination of uranium mixing and secret procedures that only Stalin and the book were a party to, the Soviets had now created a super soldier. Stalin was extremely pleased and ordered a test of his creation. The single soldier went up against 10 Germans, yet had no problems disposing of his opponents. When the fight was over, Stalin ordered the soldiers to stand down, which they did. Stalin and the scientists went to bed satisfied that night. But, back in the compound, the defeated Germans would rise up again, now alike in appearance to the first super soldier. They started breaking down the door holding them in, eventually breaking through it. As Stalin awoke from his slumber, he sees a horde of 30, most maimed in horrific manners, simply staring at him. Terrified, Stalin simply lay there silently, before, finally, rising up. There was no response from the horde. Slowly, Stalin reached for the book and asked, "What's going on?" "I made a vow, unending existence, and a legion unparalleled in power. Herein lies my greatest gift. Revel in my bestowment upon you." Stalin simply said, "Sit," and the entire horde immediately sat down. A smirk entered Stalin's face. The raging Battle of Stalingrad was devastating, but in the most crucial moment, the Soviets seemed to retreat. Emboldened, the Germans rushed into the city. Big mistake. The Soviet armies refocused on cutting off escape routes, while a slow, approaching horde would enter the city. The battle would be devastating. But, by the end, over 300,000 German soldiers had fallen casualty to the horde. And this was only just the beginning. Confident now in his ability to win the war on his own, Stalin cut communication with the Allies. These soldiers could take up entire magazines from the Germans, usually coming out of major battles with more divisions than that they started with. The Soviets were ruthlessly advancing along the entire front line, even invading Norway and neutral Sweden after overrunning Finland. During all of these pushes, Stalin wanted to go even further. Victory is assured, but how do I achieve eternal life? The book responded, as the shadow beneath our burgeoning legion grows, the arcane force amplifies. Persist upon your journey, and triumph shall weave its elusive tapestry. Stalin smiled and asked, so, how many will suffice? The book remained empty for a while, seemingly thinking, before responding, the duration is uncertain, unless you crave a fate akin to the lamented Nicholas. Stalin closed the book. Nicholas? Had Nicholas been in possession of this book? Probably through that wretched Rasputin, Stalin thought to himself. Anyways, the objective is clear. Continue to push on, with no regard for human life. By this point though, the West was getting wind of the Soviet atrocities, and the Germans, through back channels, had shared all they knew, and even went as far as offering peace terms. In light of all the known facts, and after much deliberation, the West accepted Germany's peace, which saw the Axis retreat from much of Western Europe. The precise future of Eastern Europe, it was decided, could wait until the collapse of the Soviet Union. Sorry for this quick intermission, but by far most of you aren't subscribed. To keep up to date with the 2 videos I release every single week, consider doing so. Thank you. In his office, Stalin reads the war declarations and he looks over at the book. Was it bigger than it used to be? Surely he was just imagining things. Either way, let them all unite against him. His armies were invincible. But the combined minds of the Allies had decided on a strategy, finding the most narrow portion of the front line and declaring everything east of it a no man's land. The fact that Germany was willing to declare part of Prussia no man's land indicates the pure panic of the situation. The Allies attempted to evacuate as many people as possible from this zone, but the Soviet horde advanced there. From here, the plan was simple. The most effective way found to deal with the super soldiers were explosives. Artillery and airplanes worked overtime, defending the corridor. Arrogantly, Stalin pushed wave after wave into the Allied lines, but the Allied strategy proved effective. So, Stalin, believing more bodies would help in the matter, came to a horrifying decision. He began cannibalizing his own population to feed his horde, starting with the conscripts of the Red Army, and the book grew ever bigger and bigger. Highly encouraged by the book, Stalin would finally stop his pointless offensives. The Germans, emboldened, argued that the time had come to go on the offensive, but the West urged caution, as America and Germany were still jointly building up the largest and best supplied army that the world had ever seen. But when the Soviets finally started their invasion, it wasn't Europe that was targeted. The Japanese had stubbornly refused to team up against the Soviets, and the Soviet invasion caught both Japan and China off guard. Japan was swift to negotiate a deal with the West, as the Soviet offensive was brutal. As major Chinese cities like Beijing fell, millions were infected within weeks of the invasion. During this time, the book grew to such proportions, Stalin finally noticed. Growing bigger, are ya? Are we ready yet? The book, somehow managing to look smug, responded, the hour of power approaches, but I wonder, are you yet attuned to embrace? Yes I am! Give me the ultimate power. Uncharacteristically, the book simply wrote, very well, close your eyes. Stalin, despite his drunk for power, finally hesitated. The book seemed to smile, and for the first time, spoke aloud. Too late. After which, the book would explode into a green flash. As Stalin opened his eyes, the book was simply gone. In the weeks that followed, the Soviet armies would retreat from the front lines, on both continents. The Allies didn't know what to make of it. Eventually, the Germans pushed up, noticing the complete barren wasteland that was the former front line. The next couple of weeks were strange for the Soviet Union. Stalin would denounce the Bolshevik Revolution while openly joking about proclaiming himself Tsar. His appearance also began to change, as his hair became unkempt and he grew himself a beard. Stalin, usually careful and reserved around alcohol, now made it a habit to consume liters of hard liquor, seemingly without feeling a thing. One day, Stalin gathered most of the elites of Soviet society in a single room. But interestingly, Stalin himself was missing. After waiting, the most daring tried to leave, only to find the doors locked. As they looked out of the window, it became clear why. There is only one Lord of Russia, and he does not share power. Several new types of minions would emerge, some more powerful than your standard, some more intelligent, yet all blindly loyal, allowing Stalin to keep close control over his nation even without needing any humans. Stalin, if we should even still call him that, sat in his office, content. It may have taken 30 years longer than expected, but his grand work has finally been accomplished. What the Bolsheviks destroyed, he had finally restored. It was about time to formally announce the new Tsardom to the world. The special troopers should be getting into position now. Victory isn't far off. Resistance is futile.